at you. It ain't right, because I ain't wrapped too tight. But I got to say something. So I'm going to say something.
Hey, what up, world? It's your boy G. Lewis, and I just want to let you know I say what I say because I am my father's son.
We have to do this show. We have to do this show.
Absolutely.
In lieu of current events, current breaking news, first of all, from the Book of G, we would like to again send our deepest condolences to all of the families who lost due to the Charleston, South Carolina shooting. Heinous, horrible act of two things that nobody wants to put together. They take a side. They either call it racial or they call it terrorist. But we here at the Book of G stand confirmed in solidarity that this was a racially motivated terrorist act.
There you go.
Okay?
There you go.
We can't swing it in either one direction. And so again, our heart goes out to those families. We pray your strength, and you know, we just you have a voice always here with the Book of G, and those names will not be forgotten. So with that, that is our topic today, and we have several areas that we want to talk about in relation to this shooting. Where you want to go first, man?
Well, I mean, let's start with the shooting itself and the fact that 9 people have been assassinated inside of a church. And let's start with, you know, how does that make you feel? How did you feel when you got the news? And you know, what does that mean, you know, for us going forward, you know? Because we're talking about a church.
Right.
You know, we're not talking about, you know, on a basketball court, or we're not talking about in the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time. We're talking about a church. You know, sanctuary means safety. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about a deliberate, well planned out, well thought out, intentional assassination. Yeah. With, you know, racial intent, with terrorist techniques. So I mean, let's start there. Let's start with, you know, how did you feel when you heard the news?
My heart was broken, honestly, for the victims. But this is just a personal thought process or opinion. I don't take nowhere for granted. Mm-hmm. You know, and that's church included. I have gotten a little bit better about that old thing, I don't sit with my back towards doors. Mm-hmm. You know, I have relaxed a little bit in that sense, but I stay on high alert, man. Because I know that at any time, anywhere, something can pop off. And so to hear that it did unfortunately happen in this church, it was in a church setting, made it very careful, but I wasn't taken aback like a lot of people in the country to be like, oh, this is a church, because I mean, things happen. People haven't respected that sanctuary in a long time. So that's my take on that one.
I mean, for me, it was interesting, the discussions that immediately came from it. You know, I admit I was glued to the television. I watched every network that I possibly could because I wanted to see the discussion come from it. Like, should churches have armed security? You know, that's a thought. Like, should churches who traditionally speak and teach about nonviolence have armed security? I don't know how I feel about that. You know, I still to this day don't know how I feel about that. Looking at the initial responses of, you know, people wanting to label the act an act of terrorism. Some people were hesitant to do that. Some people were hesitant to call it, you know, a hate crime. Some people were hesitant to call it so many things. And here, you know, what I find the most interesting is in 2015, you have a young man who, you know, says he wants to start a race war. said he deliberately chose a church and he wanted to kill blacks. Made comments about, you guys rape our women and, you're taking things from us, that in 2015, teachings that were so prevalent in the 1960s and the 1800s are still just as alive today, are just as blatant today, and you can still have people sit on television and say, how can you say that race is a problem in this country and that this is an isolated incident? Racism isn't, you're not born with it, it's taught. So somewhere there's somebody who taught this boy about racism, about prejudice. So for me, these are all the initial thoughts that kind of popped into my head among feeling sorrow for the 9 church members who were assassinated.
So that's a good point. Now I want to transition on that one. You brought up the point of how can people say, or some of these commentators sit here and say that, there's still a question of racism in America. And the old saying that it's hard to see the forest from the trees is the one that applies to this situation. Because, and I'm jumping early, but you, Mr. Bill O'Reilly, who wants to basically verbally start you ready to go to war. Okay, then let's go to war then. All right, boo. And I hope you are able to do it. I hope you're man enough to do it off of the comfort of your own show.
Right.
That you can't sit up here and then cut people off, and because too many people listen to you and have that forest from the tree mentality, which is, of course, you can't see the benefits of white supremacy when you live in it. If you fail to take one moment of empathy to step outside of your comfortable situation, you're going to miss the whole thing. And that's what white supremacy is. That's what the privilege, white privilege, when we talk about it, when we address it, the institution of white supremacy, that's what, when we talk about it, that's exactly what we're talking about. You have the privilege to stay in your supreme cocoon, okay? Racism is not dead in America. Whenever you add that ending, the ISM, to any word, you're talking about a system, okay? There is capitalism. There is terrorism. The ism is the system in which these things are given the foundation and the platform to operate on. And so racism, the race ism, the system, we can take off the ism and put the race system in America is still catered to the dominant society, which is those of non-melanated complexion or white folk.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing with Bill O'Reilly, and I'm gonna be honest. He doesn't make me mad. He doesn't make me upset. So I want to be clear. He doesn't even annoy me, because he is literally the perfect individual selected by a machine that needs to spew the propaganda that they need to spew. They need their supporters to feel a certain way and think a certain way. It's no different than, in the 1800s, early 1900s, the Ku Klux Klan, they call themselves the White Knights because the propaganda that they spewed was they were formed to protect innocent white women from being raped by drug-crazed black soldiers from the North. This really was the lie that was told in order to be able to get people to support them. So you look at, this guy, Bill O'Reilly, he's no different. He's actually, he's hilarious. He says, you want to go to war, let's go to war. You hear terms like race baiters.
Right.
I haven't heard that term, since I watched the movie Rosewood. Don't come here, you race baiters, and upset our good niggers. Right. Our niggers are good. They don't need to vote. You know, the way we're living is good down here. We don't need you to change any of that. And, you know, Fox News and Bill O'Reilly is a perfect example of that perpetuation of a system that works for them. So he absolutely should come out and say what it is that he's saying. I just, once again, I wonder if you will have the guts to come off camera, go to a neutral site, and debate someone, you know, that has the intellect and the intelligence and the knowledge of history on the issues to actually debate with you. I would love to see you and Roland Martin sit down across from each other in a neutral setting where neither one of you controls the camera or the mute button, and see who comes out smelling like roses and who comes out smelling like shit.
Matter of fact, I'll give you one up. Don't go with a Roland Martin. Go with two quote unquote nobodies in this there arena.
I don't think he want to do that.
No.
In fact, I know he don't want to do that. He got everything to lose. You give me 10 minutes on or off camera with that man, and I guarantee you he won't have a job. Because Fox News will realize that they need to find somebody new to employ. So, you know, the best thing for him to do is to find, you know, and I think Roland Martin would do a great job.
Absolutely.
Because Roland's not going to let him off the hook. And you know, but we're coming. We'll get to him.
Absolutely.
We'll get to him.